Mexico, a country nowadays that is mainly corrupted and or fighting cartel members, today will be forming an empire in our modern world. Mexico is, well, as I said, a country that is fighting a lot of cartels at the moment and is a very corrupt country. Surrounded by water, just like the United States, but having a mountainous center. Mexico is economically pretty well, actually, but it will be hard fighting the United States. Let's see how Mexico does in this video today. Mexico gets taken over by the cartels, and Mexico starts to reform what it's called the Great Mexican Empire. Not a real thing in real life, but Mexico's always wanted it. And so, with a heavy heart, Mexico declares war on Guatemala. Mexican forces start pushing to try to take over all the coastlines, but we all know that's probably not going to happen. While Mexican troops start to push in from the northern regions, as seeing it is a great spot for a good invasion. Take all this coastline and a push into this other piece of coastline. Guatemala City soon gets fully surrounded. These two armies meet up, cutting off a large part of Guatemala's territory, while the forces in the great northern regions are continuing to push down. The Guatemalan troops are pretty much forced to capitulate at this point, and as soon after that, a matter of 2 days after the surrender of troops, Guatemala is forced to capitulate. With Guatemala being fully annexed, the next country that would be invaded is Belize. Belize is another pretty weak country, just like Guatemala, and Mexican forces instantly start pushing into its southern region and the northern region. Of course, they make a naval landing to help with the southern part, and they fully surround the capital. A fall of the country happens, and the entire country is forced to capitulate because their army is not as strong as the Great Mexican Empire. Being fully annexed by the Mexican Empire, Mexico starts continuing to look more down south, and their next country is the great country known as El Salvador. El Salvador, having not that many close allies, is kind of in a pickle. So Honduras decides, screw it, and joins Mexico because they're still salty about the football war, which happened like 20 years ago. No, 40 years ago now. That's crazy. El Salvadorian troops instantly start to push into the country, saying it as, well, it's pretty hard to recognize, but El Salvador has bigger population and a stronger army than Honduras. And so they started to push into Honduras instantaneously, which really shows how weak Honduras is compared to the small, tiny El Salvador. With Mexican troops finally arriving, they start pushing into the country, which gives Honduras some time to think, wait, we actually might have this. And so they start to take some of their land back and start looking towards taking some nice land from, well, El Salvador. El Salvador starts to lose a lot of land to Honduras until they are forced to capitulate. The Mexican Empire is kind of pissed how they didn't get that much land, and so peace treaties start to get signed. The Treaty of the Seven Suns gets signed, where Mexico gets the territory that they annexed, and Honduras will get the rest. And so they sign a 2-month peace treaty, meaning Mexico has to stop their invasions into its southern neighbors. And so they start looking towards the Caribbean. More specifically, the small country known as Jamaica. Jamaica. Jamaica is not that powerful of a country at all, and Mexico in this universe has quite a strong naval presence, and so an instant takeout of the country pretty much happens in a matter of days. Let's go look at this peace treaty. As being a surprise to no one, Jamaica is fully annexed by the Great Mexican Empire, and Mexico starts looking towards another country to invade, and this country would have to be Cuba. Cuba has not really good relations with the United States. The United States and them have bad history, and so the United States doesn't really do anything with this Mexican invasion of Cuba. Mexico takes a small island right here and starts pushing towards, I forgot the capitals, starts pushing towards Cuba's capital, fully surrounding the capital city, with smaller armies starting to push into more Cuban lands, doing some nice blitzkrieg tactics, cutting off a lot of armies from their supply units. pretty much forcing these armies to be forced to capitulate until the entire eastern half capitulates and the fall of Cuba happens. With Cuba falling to the Mexican Empire, it's been 2 months since the peace treaty was signed, meaning Mexico could start looking towards their southern neighbors once again. Honduras, having a stronger population and army this time, has already had troops on its border for months. And we're waiting for the Mexicans to do what we all knew they were going to do: declare war on Honduras. Honduras, again having troops on the borders already, instantly starts a mass push into the old El Salvadorian areas, but is instantly stopped by Mexican forces. Mexican forces instantly push them back, and a push into Honduras happens, taking most of its coastline on its western half. There we go. On its western half, and a push into the country happens. 2 naval invasions happen, and meeting up with the Mexican mainland, and all of the armies pretty much take over the entire coastline until the country is forced to capitulate. With the other countries starting to see what was happening, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, and Colombia start to see that they might be next and are quite terrified. And so they sign a new pact called the Pact of Freedom, which is Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, and Colombia all signing a alliance treaty where if Mexico did anything to hurt any of them, the others will come to help, which would really hurt the Mexican Empire. And so with Mexico seeing this new alliance on its borders, it gets quite scared because Mexico was just planning to stop at Panama and not really push into Colombia. And so with Colombia joining this pact, this really would put Mexico on a hard push. The Mexican government continued to bicker and bicker and bicker until a revolution sparks in the Yucatan Peninsula, with these rebels really seeing Mexico not as what they call not their empire. And so they declare independence from Mexico. But Mexico instantly puts them down with a bombing raid, which fully gets rid of the rebels. And so the Mexican government finally decides, fine, it's time to declare war. And so they declare war on this new alliance. Mexican forces instantly start a push into this new alliance, seeing it as quite a easy target. But of course, this would not be as easy as a fight as Mexico would think, with naval bombardment stopping Mexican troops across the coast. Mexico's main plan was to take the entire coastline of all the countries, pretty much starving them. But that might not be as easy as they think. A continued push into these countries would continue to happen for months and months on end. With this continued push into these countries, Mexico was really not having a fun time with Nicaragua. And so they start talking to Colombia, pretty much saying, Colombia, we won't invade you, but you want some free land? And sadly, to these Latin America countries, Colombia seeing a chance, breaks away from the alliance to take up its old allies' lands. This war just got a lot more interesting. With Mexican troops continuing their push, not really having to care about Colombian troops anymore, Colombia starts pushing into the Panama area because Colombia was planning to split these areas with Mexico. They take the Panama Canal and Panama City in a matter of days, and all of Panama surrenders to this new country. Nicaragua surrenders a little bit afterwards. And so now it is just up to Costa Rica to fight these two superpowers. Mexico, not wanting to give any land, that much land at least, to Colombia, starts a great push into trying to get this nice little area right here. And they continue to push through with their troops. They fight through the jungles until they get to a nice area where they would agree to a peace negotiations. The rest of the country would soon fall to Colombia in a matter of days. With Mexico and Colombia coming to a nice peace treaty, with Mexico getting all of Nicaragua and some of Costa Rica, with Colombia getting all of the Panama and again some of Costa Rica. With this new Mexican empire looking quite powerful, they look towards a neighbor they thought they would never have to fight. But here we go. Mexico declares war on the United States of America. Mexico starts pushing into the San Diego area. Of course, this area is quite populated, and it'll be hard for Mexico to push into the United States of America. This would be Mexico's hardest war yet, pushing into Texas as well, and starting to just push troops through. America did not have troops on this border at the time, as it was more scared of bigger threats like Russia, for example. And so, with the fall of Los Angeles, the United States' economy starts to crumble. But, of course, America, being America, instantly has military forces ready and prepared. America starts doing a nice big pushback, with America taking air support almost instantaneously. Mexico really seeing how hard it is going to be to take this country. Mexico gets their footing and again does another large push, taking back all their lands and getting anti-air up on the ground, and knocking out a lot of American 5th gen fighters, more specifically the F-35s that were launched from aircraft carriers in this area. Naval warfare was also a big part of this war, but we will not have a naval map, as that will take me too long. With America's main carriers pretty much being taken out by Mexico, which is, of course, unreal, but in this universe, Mexico is severely buffed. Also, all alliances are disbanded, with Mexico continuing to push, taking almost all of Texas, and this war is really going in Mexico's favor. Mexico continuing to do a push towards San Francisco, knowing if San Francisco falls, America's economy will pretty much fall instantly, with Mexican troops landing in Cascadia, taking a lot of Washington's territory, and Mexican troops from Cuba landing in Florida and Louisiana. This really is saying the collapse of the United States, but of course the United States has one more thing, a nuclear bomb, but in this scenario, the United States would of course never use a nuke. With my hometown pretty much being under Mexican control, and the fall of San Francisco, the United States is really starting to see the fall of their country, with American rebels starting to appear everywhere, saying that America is not what they thought it used to be. With these large rebel groups getting a large sum of money from Mexico, Mexico continues their push into the United States. Mexico was trying to give a lot of this land back to the United States, but saying that they might be able to just take it all. The United States has one more option, and so they send a nuke towards Florida, nuking Florida and pretty much getting, with Mexican troops in the millions perishing, they're forced to escape Florida and some parts of Louisiana. Mexico, seeing what was going on, agreed to America, hey, fine, we could sign peace negotiations, just don't use another nuke. Let's see what that peace negotiation looks like. American rebel groups are giving their independence, more specifically Maine, this small part over here, and this small part of Washington and Oregon. Mexico takes Washington and a large chunk of Texas, instantly knocking the United States from... Oh, wait, also, one more thing. Texas did want one more thing from the United States, and that was the beautiful island known as Hawaii. Yeah, they want Hawaii, because it would look a lot better on my terms. Wanting Hawaii. And so, with America pretty much going from the world's largest superpower to the 5th, bumping up Mexico to the 2nd, just below China. With this new empire starting to have world influence, having good allies with Russia, China, and North Korea, this new empire would really shake the globe. Thank you everyone for coming to this video today. This was quite a fun experience actually, I could test with rebel groups and everything. Thank you so much for watching, and again, this was a fan suggestion, and if you would like to suggest your own country for the next video, which is tomorrow, please do so in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. Have a nice rest of your day. Goodbye!